Trello's a fantastic tool, and it's great for so many people, even if you don't consider yourself fairly techie. But as with any new tool, it can be kind of frustrating to get started with. There just feels like there's so much stuff going on, you don't know how to parse through it, and sometimes you might make some mistakes with it and then conclude the tool isn't useful, when in reality, you just didn't know what to watch out for. So we're going to spend the next few minutes going through the 7 mistakes that you want to avoid when you start using Trello. And I'm going to show you what they are and how you can avoid them. Let's go! The first issue people make is trying to do too much too fast. They're like, oh, I just discovered this Brittany girl and she's awesome and now I want to do all of those things that she's doing on Trello and I want to build a million boards and set up automation and do all sorts of things. And that's exciting at first, but you'll get overwhelmed really quickly and you won't remember what you're meant to be doing. So then you'll start forgetting why you're doing all of it and it'll just feel too complicated. Good news, the fix is super easy. Just start small. Pick one use case. A good use case is like a Kanban style like this that's just to do, doing, and done. And that's a good way to get started. The next mistake you can make is pretty similar to the first one. You don't have a purpose. You're just like, I heard Trello's a good tool. But the problem is it's not going to fix your productivity problems. You need a system, not a tool. The tool is just a way to implement your system. So I prefer a GTD sort of system. GTD stands for getting things done. And what that means is I basically have a process for dumping ideas and anything that comes into my mind into a repository, this list of sorts. And then weekly, I incorporate time on my calendar for making sure I'm going to review it. Notice over here, let's go in Taskable. We got it on Friday scheduled out here. I've got my weekly planning checklist where I review my tasks, I add new tasks, I time block things. So having a good system is super helpful, and then you can make it work with a tool. But if you're just trying to start using a new tool, it's not going to work because you need a system. So other systems you could think about are things like Pomodoros or bullet journaling. You could even try to organize your Trello board in that sort of way, but you want to make sure you have some sort of process and principle to go with it first. Tools don't suddenly make you more productive. You need systems and processes to actually help you be organized. And I could do an entire video on this, and I probably will, but there's no magical tool that's going to help you. You need to figure out how you work best and what kind of productivity systems work best for you. And then you just find the right tool to implement it with. And for some people, that's Trello. So yeah, let's keep going and go through a few more mistakes. Another mistake people make is starting with some really obscure use case that's really just kind of maybe possible in Trello, but just kind of out there. I recommend starting with something Trello's known for, like Kanban, which is kind of what I've already discussed with that format of to do, doing, and done. But also peruse through this template gallery. Just go to trello.com/templates, and you can see through all of the different common use cases that people are using to do things with Trello. So you can stick with something that you see here. I wouldn't try to go too far kind of off of that. If you want to use Trello for something that you don't see anything written about or any videos or any templates or anything like that, I don't recommend starting there. Save that for down the road when you're more comfortable with the tool and try to make sure you've got your feet wet with these common sort of use cases first and have a feel around Trello. The worst thing you can do is have no idea how to use Trello yourself, but then try to get all of your team onto Trello and in all your boards, and they're like, okay, now what? They're just going to lose respect for you and the tool and be pissed you made them download something else and give away their email. So rather than that, make sure you get your plan together first with how you're going to use Trello and then send an invite to everyone. The next most common mistake I see is people trying to start automating too much right away. Butler is really cool, and if you've ever taken a look at all of the automation and things you can do with it, then that's probably a real draw to why you want to use Trello. But if you start with automation right away, you'll just be confused about what's going on in your boards and your workflows, and you'll either get too confused or break something or just not know how to fix it. or you'll just have some unintended consequence from that automation that you later discover down the road. So I recommend build your workflows manually. Make your boards work for how you want them to work, even if it includes manually dragging and dropping cards, and later figure out how to automate those pieces. So if you're worried and you don't want to make something that can't be automated, just post in the forums and ask people, are you able to automate this use case? Like, I'm fine doing it manually for now, but I want to future-proof it and be able to automate it later. Is this possible? And people will be happy to jump on and answer if it is or not, and probably even give you a guide on how you could do it down the road. Another mistake people make is not taking the time to learn the Trello terminology. You don't have to know everything about Trello before you start using it, but it's important to make sure that you have a general clue of what's being referenced in the structure. So I'll include a link to this Trello 101 guide, but you want to be familiar with what's a board, what's a card, and a list, and how do I access these certain things that they're talking about. Make sure you understand those things. Understand that a board is your way of organizing all of your things together. It's your digital whiteboard that holds your cards. Your lists are your ways of organizing those items in your board. So typically used in like a linear workflow to represent the steps that you take for something to be completed. And your cards are like your individual supercharged sticky notes. Workplaces, it was previously called teams, but that's basically how your groups, your boards are organized and categorized. And other terminology you might want to know is Butler, power-ups, what are those? Butler is automation. It used to be called Butler, but now it's like Trello automation. Power-ups are third-party integrations. It's sometimes first-party integrations that you can add to your board. So just make sure to go through this sort of Trello 101 guide and get more comfortable with what are all of these sort of things and get familiar with the terminology. The biggest mistake people make is not reaching out when they get stuck or have a question. It's totally normal, and one of the things I love about Trello is it's a highly supportive community and there's tons of info to be found, especially for free. You can check the Atlassian forums, the Reddit community, there's tons of content on YouTube, and you can even find courses on LinkedIn or Udemy, but sometimes those are paid. If you really want to make sure your team is successful with Trello, I recommend bringing someone on board to help with some training. This is something that I do. I work with a lot of folks who want to get Trello set up in their environment at work or their personal life or whatever. And having someone like me who can hold your hand and kind of help you think through the future of what you want it to look like, and also just help you think through things you may not be thinking through at this moment when you want to set up Trello for yourself. It can be really helpful. It's kind of like, you know how I talk about Trello being like Legos and you can build whatever you want with it? It's the equivalent of like someone handing you a box of Legos and saying, go build a Death Star, versus someone handing you a box of Legos with a blueprint of here's the steps by steps that you want to do to put the Legos together, so at the end it looks like a Death Star. So I just recommend that in general, but that being said, it's not required by any means. A lot of people have tons of success with using Trello and getting set up on their own. But if you're interested, I will include in the description a link with people like me and others who are able to help with this consulting and training to get Trello set up in your environment. I'm also curious if you have any other ideas or thoughts on, man, I wish I knew this when I started using Trello. I'd love to hear that. Please leave it below in the comments and maybe I'll make another video on it. But thanks for watching and hope to see you around.